Spectrum Extra on Radio 1 FM 90. An extra hour of analysis and discussion on the topical issues of the week. Brought to you by Housing Finance Bank, a financial institution regulated by Bank of Uganda. Housing Finance Bank, we make it easy.
Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
It's a Friday, the 5th of April, 2024, and this is Spectrum Extra, coming to you live on Radio 1 FM 90, a time that we review the major events of the week. You'll be listening to a panel of 4 from around this time up to 9 p.m., when we will be reflecting on 2 major issues. One, we'll be looking at the implications of the Constitutional Court ruling on the Anti-Homosexuality Act. On Wednesday, that court delivered its ruling and upheld the law, saying it was legally enacted and it is in tandem with the aspirations, culture and traditions of many Ugandans. But the legal battle is not yet over. The petitioners say they will appeal to the Supreme Court, so this will be going to the wire. Already, we have received reactions. The European Union said it had followed the court process. They are not happy that the law was not comprehensively dealt with. Especially, they say they are not happy that the death penalty is still in that particular law. The United States government, through the State Department, has also responded, saying that the announcement that some provisions of this law had been removed by the Constitutional Court is small and insufficient step towards safeguarding human rights. They say the remaining provisions are actually more dangerous. They undermine public health, clamp down on civic space, damage Uganda's international reputation, and harm efforts to increase foreign investment. Mark that they harm efforts to increase foreign investment. Why am I asking you to mark that? Because one of the things we have seen is a threat from the U.S. government to withhold aid. Same stance taken by the European Union. There was the same stance taken by the World Bank. And the question is, as a country, will be able to withstand that huge gap which will be left in case they decide to withdraw their funding. There is a source that has indicated that actually some of the clauses some of the sections of this law which were nullified had actually been negotiated on by the World Bank when its team was here in Kampala, and they urged the government of Uganda to ensure that they are removed from the law. So was this sort of a directive that went through the court? There's a discussion there, and the team here in studio will be sharing their views on that issue. We'll also be looking at the issue of the missing persons and the NUP supporters. Well, this issue is back in the discussion because we saw the state minister in charge of Children and Youth Affairs, Balaam Barugahara, saying that he had requested the president to have these people released. He needed a release from the National Unity Platform Party. The National Unity Platform Party had insisted that it was not ready to negotiate on this issue because those people are being held without any cases. They are actually innocent, and they have been insisting that they should be released unconditionally. But a list was finally given to them through the leader of opposition, Joel Senyonyi, in Parliament, and we are waiting to see what will happen. The debate is out there. Some people are saying NUP is looking for political capital, which comes with continuing to portray the government as holding people who are innocent. But the government also is being accused of trying to use this process to actually gain political capital because it's likely to go out there and say we are the ones who actually freed the NUP supporters. We'll be looking at this issue and asking a question, how can we have this matter resolved conclusively? The panel, the Honorable Simon Mulongo, governance and security expert, who did represent Bobulo East in Parliament, and he also served as a deputy head of the African Union Mission in Somalia, and while there he actually earned the title of ambassador. Welcome to Spectrum Extra, Ambassador Simon Mulongo.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to find particularly Honorable Pastor and the Honorable Dr. Sarah, of course, with my old colleague. Happy to be here again.
Unfortunately, we are introducing my panel before I actually do so. But
I did not. I didn't mention the names.
You didn't mention the names, so I'll let it pass. Dr. Sarah Biret, the Chief Executive Officer at the Center for Constitutional Governance, Pandit on Human Rights and Governance Matters. Thank you very much for once again being with us this evening.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm always glad to be back on Spectrum Extra. Good evening, viewers and listeners.
Also in studio, we have Pastor Solomon Male, evangelical preacher and executive director for Paul Mwiru, former Ginger East MP. He is a member of the National Unity Platform. He's also a lawyer. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us, Honorable Paul Mwiru.
Thank you. Good evening, listeners and viewers.
All right. Let me begin with Honorable Simon Mulongo. We had this ruling from the Constitutional Court. I'm sure you've been able to digest some of its contents. Right away, what is your feeling about the outcome of this case after months of litigation?
First of all, I want to congratulate our legal team that managed to battle it out. For some people wanted to usurp and overturn the people's will. And I want to congratulate the courts for really coming out as justly as they could. And so that's the first thing that I want to say, that Parliament did a good job, and they expressed the will and the wishes of the people of Uganda, and any attempt by others to usurp that has been defeated. And I pray that it will be defeated even much more thoroughly if they attempt to go to higher levels. Secondly, the three areas that you mentioned, whether they were negotiated by behind doors and so on, it's unfortunate that even some of those areas are being removed, because we wanted something much firmer than that. Because this law is not just about issues of human rights, as some people want to claim. It's about our values, it's about our rights, it's about our customs, about our cultures that have come along the way to be what we are as a people of this country. So these legal technicalities that they want to use to eliminate certain aspects, when the people themselves are interested and would like that to be there, is something that I think we hope we shall battle it and have them reinserted, even improve some other parts of it, of that law, some elements which were left out. So I think, I congratulate my team, I congratulate the government and our legal team that they really did a very good job.
All right, those are your initial thoughts there. We'll be coming back to you to dig deeper on the implications. Honorable Paul Mwiru, your initial thoughts about this ruling.
Well, first I want to congratulate the team which was defending the law. Because as you recall, in the 9th Parliament, I presented the report, a committee report, which was actually supporting the enactment of the law. And that was a very historical moment, because the chair and the vice disappeared in the committee. So I was the only committee member remaining in the House.
I remember that very well.
And I was wondering what was taking place. So, of course, the colonialists had been overrated. And to me, the court's rejection of neo-colonialism in terms of homosexuality is a welcome idea. And I won't take exception to the narrative you have created, that even this situation where some of the provisions of the sections of the Act were struck out, that was because it were negotiated. I've reflected on the law. I don't have a copy, but I remember judicial power being derived from the people. And that judicial power is supposed to be exercised according to the will and aspirations of the people of Uganda, not from the European Union. I've made my point very clear about this, and I'm very happy, because we had issues. People had thought that actually money is everything. Yet to some of us, money is mere paper. So we knew that, and we thought that we must do everything humanly possible to support the law and this enforcement, because there are places you'd move around Kampala and even guarded by police, and there were promoters of homosexuality, and people were minting money out of this, that money. But even when you go I want to also take exception at this neo-colonialist. You see, when you go to America, there are states where homosexuality has been outlawed. So it is not permissible. And I think states like California, homosexuality is outlawed. So I don't know, I wonder why they want to concentrate on Uganda. But my point is very clear on this. I presented the other time the report, and I still hold the same view. I have not changed, and I don't intend to change on the subject matter. I thank you.
All right, let's hear from Pastor Solomon Male. Your initial thoughts on the ruling before we actually dig deeper.
I see Ugandans celebrating. It's a hula baloo over nothing. Actually, the law as it is that has been late to pass or to stay by the Constitutional Court is totally nothing compared to what people thought would come out. What were the issues before that law? We had the Penal Code.
Welcome back to
Section 145 of the Penal Code, criminalizing sex against the order of nature. Whether you do it with a woman or with a fellow man or fellow woman, was perfect. Section 148 dealing with promotion, which includes recruitment. Very clear. Section 129 of the Penal Code, which had been revised in 2007 and assented to by the president. I don't know who of these honorables were in there, and he assented it to it. It was protecting children against all forms of sexual abuses, including homosexuality, unless people don't understand the English of the law. So now, why then the law? When I started fighting against homosexuality, I met a lot of injustices being rained on the victims. 2, there was homosexuality in schools, but people were not talking about it. Those involved were just being dismissed. Teachers were just being transferred. I got cases where teachers were sodomizing students, and the headmasters were not reporting. Now, when we started raising the issues, then people say, no, if they are recruited. And then there was this so-called reproductive health programs going on in our schools. And through that, they were using them to teach homosexuality as an alternative sex life. And they were telling young women that for it, you don't expect to get HIV, you don't expect to get pregnancy. And these were 2 issues that were being peddled so that young women fear and then get involved in lesbian sexual activity. Now, in 2008, we got victims who were ready to speak out. Then those of Pastor Kayanja came up. I lead the crusade against homosexuality in this country, de facto leader, because I started the cause. MPs just jumped on it. And it is so unfortunate that politicians have turned homosexuality into a tool for politics. It's no longer an issue, but a political tool. So when we started handling victims of homosexuality for Pastor Kayanja, we treated on a no-go area because this is a man who had been doing it. He had state protection. Museveni is his great friend. He had patronage. And many of the pastors who had been with him, including Mukasa, Kalori, and others, had left quietly and even feared to speak out that the man was actually raining terror on the rears of the young men in his church.
Just on
now,
record, Pastor Male,
wait.
we have no evidence on this table.
I have the evidence.
That Pastor Kayanja...
Look, please, you are the host.
We have
I own everything I've said.
What we know...
You don't need to worry about it. I confirm that he has been sodomizing boys.
Can I just make a point?
Make it.
What we have seen, that there are cases in court, and in one of those cases, he actually emerged victorious. There's another one.
We never defended ourselves. Look, okay.
So
that was 2000.
Legally on record.
Listen, 2012, I was convicted for a crime I never committed just because I helped his victims to access justice, and the police and the judiciary all turned against us.
But legally
then,
there's no
listen. In 2014, on the 31st of March at Kororo, I was heralded a hero in the fight against homosexuality. Honorable Buturo read my name. How can a criminal again be a hero unless Ugandans are fools? The president was there. He was the first hero. Then the Speaker Kadaga. Then Honorable Bahat, who had brought the first law. Then there are, of course, others. Then Moses Solomon Male. If I was a criminal convicted, then why herald me a hero unless unless every Ugandan is a fool, including the top?
So how does the Constitutional Court ruling weaken the law?
Listen.
How does it weaken the law?
I was convicted because of miscarriage of justice, the abuse of systems, criminality with impunity in this country. Full stop. I'm not a criminal. I'm just a good Samaritan who came up to help victims of homosexuality. When the law was brought in 2009, I sat with Bakhati in Sheraton, and I told him, look, the issue is not absence of laws. And let me tell you, my brother, and including those honorables, Uganda is not a new country. Uganda's problem is not lack of laws or absence of laws. Uganda's problem are the systems that are supposed to enforce the law and ensure justice. That's why we have thieves still in parliament. We have criminals everywhere. They go through, you cannot arrest them, you cannot prosecute them. As they are being prosecuted, then order from above says drop the matter. That is what is going on, criminality with impunity. It's not lack of laws. So I said right from the outset that we have good laws on the penal code. But Bahati, of course, brought it because of political reasons. And then they are my friends, men of the cassocks of the Bible, who are populists, who instead of dealing with their own in the pews, who are sodomizing and terrorizing young children, this how now do we cover up? Okay? Because when you're going to deal with homosexuality, you are going to deal with it in the Catholic Church, in the Pentecostal movement, Anglican Communion, and so on and so forth. Now, how do we run away from that? Let's pretend there is no law. So now they supported the law. But the law they were supporting, actually, the clauses that made them support the law are the very clauses that have been removed. 1, homosexuality in schools and recruitment. Teachers, headmasters, silent about it. Directors of schools, silent about it because they never wanted to spoil their schools. So now, then that clause was included. That now our children are being recruited to homosexuality in schools. When they inserted that clause, they said, now we have them. 2, homosexuals are hiring places and using them for sexual purposes, like brothels and so on and so forth, even their offices. Now we have them. They are not going to have offices. So when they said, so now Ugandans were excited that now we have them. They are not going to hold offices. Then, of course, there is a part that muzzles the media that was not annulled. You, my brother, report, give a story about homosexuality without authority on court, you pay 5 million shillings. That has remained. Now, the law was brought.
I thought that part was actually annulled, including allowing institutions of higher learning to issue publications and things.
No, it wasn't allowed.
The part also touching the media.
It was not annulled. I've not seen it.
Okay.
In the summarized bit by the judicature. Now, so we now remain with a vehicle where the engine has been removed, the tires have been removed. Because it's still a big body, people are celebrating that we still have a good thing. Yet, what remains is well addressed by the penal code that we had, and through which many have been convicted and are serving sentences in jail. So now, actually I was discussing with a friend of mine, a lawyer, and he said that the Constitutional Court has toed a very thin line of almost allowing consensual homosexuality. Because 1, the clause of mandatory reporting has been annulled. And when I was addressing this law, even before Parliament, I told them, I'm a counselor. I owe my clients a duty of confidentiality. You're not going to force me to tell you that I handled a homosexual or I handled a victim who came to me if he doesn't want to report or she doesn't want to report. Okay? So now, that has been annulled. Now, 2, you're not going to force teachers or headmasters to report. That means the situation is going to remain as it has been.
All right.
Now, 3, according to this condensed
ruling.
Condensed. It's a
The
summary.
summary.
It's not a ruling.
The summary of the ruling.
Yeah, it's not a ruling because here they say that the sections that have been annulled had criminalized one. My phone freezes.
All right.
But they
Let's
have
go for-
criminalized renting out properties for homosexual purposes.
Yeah.
Then 2, failure by anyone to report.
To the police.
And then 3, engagement in homosexuality that causes any of the parties to contract a
terminal
illness. So that means that homosexuals have not been denied their right to privacy and to exist.
Let's go for a break now. When we return, we'll hear from Dr. Sarah
we've got
Birete.
nothing
And then also
from
move on to look at
the
the implications.
over-
There are likely to be implications, including sanctions on Uganda, including freezing of funding. How are we prepared as a country? That's the next leg of our discussion when we return after this break.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra live on Radio 1 FM 90, reviewing the major events of the week. We are looking at the implications of the Constitutional Court ruling on the Anti-Homosexuality Act. We will also be looking at the issue of the missing persons and supporters of NUP. There is a new effort to actually have them released, which is spearheaded by the new State Minister of Youth and Children Affairs. My guest, Honorable Simon Mulongo, governance and security expert, member of the NRM who once represented Bobulo East in Parliament. He served as the deputy head of the African Union Mission in Somalia. Pastor Solomon Malay, evangelical preacher and executive director at Arising for Christ. Dr. the Honorable Paul Mwiru, former Ginger East MP, member of the NUP. He's also a lawyer. Now, coming on the mic is Dr. Sarah Birete, Chief Executive Officer at the Center for Constitutional Governance. And Sarah, I would like you to pick up the discussion from the likely implications of this ruling. Well, even before the law was passed, we got statements from the U.S. State Department, we got statements from the European Union and other development partners as well, actually saying there was no need to have this law and that there were going to be implications. We saw some implications, including sanctions against certain leaders, including the Speaker of Parliament, a number of MPs. Connected to the passing of this particular law, they cannot travel to those Western capitals. Now that we have gotten this ruling, we have seen reactions from the European Union. They have maintained their stance, and so has the U.S. State Department, saying that Uganda has retained a law that is going to undermine public health, clamp down on civic space, damage Uganda's international reputation, and harm efforts to increase foreign investments. What do you see as the likely implications of this ruling against that backdrop? And do you think as a country we are prepared to deal with the shocks?
Well, I think in my view, it's a catch-22. Because when you look at the framing of our Constitution, the judiciary derives its power from the people. And the Article 126 of the Constitution enjoins the courts to implement or dispense justice in accordance with the wishes, values, and aspirations of the people. And when you look at the judgment, largely, it keeps rubbing in that aspect of culture, social norms, and the rest of it. And it's the same sentiment that led to the passing of the law, the enactment of the law. So when you look at the Africa situation generally, there is polarization from the global north versus global south in terms of that cultural controversy. And it's important also for the viewers to note that 31 countries in Africa have criminalized same-sex intimacy. Our constitution specifically prohibits same-sex marriages, even without this law. So the question then on having a take on what would be the role of courts in such matters as polarizing as the Anti-Homosexuality Act. The courts are enjoined to interpret the law in a way that protects human rights for all, protects the dignity of the people, stops discrimination, among others. I have seen the clauses that the courts nullified, but also the basis of their reasoning, which again takes us to the polarization between the global north and the global south. You have their basis being legislations and judicial decisions, and as I've stated, 31 countries in Africa have outlawed same-sex intimacy. You have a lack of consensus between the, global consensus on the issue of conflict between upholding universal human rights and respect for freedoms and cultural diversity. Then they also refer to the recent controversial decisions in the United States of Roe versus Wade, where the abortion rights were overturned on the basis of the history and values of the country. So that's why I said that it's a catch-22. I know that the petitioners have said they are going to appeal, and it would be interesting to see how the Supreme Court will pronounce itself on these matters, or whether they can depart far from what the Constitutional Court has decided. So what are the implications now that we are here? The issue of sanctions happened before the enactment. Some of the sanctions happened before the enactment of the anti-homosexuality law. Immediately after 2021 elections, we have had 2 Magnitsky sanctions against the prison's boss, Johnson Byabashija, and another. And we have had several travel sanctions against the members of the security forces for human rights violations, including kidnaps, missing persons, extrajudicial killings, and torture. So the issue of sanctions by the U.S. are not just about AHA. AHA is also among the human rights violations that the suspension of funding by the World Bank. I think that's the issue that we can closely tie into AHA. And the World Bank has been clear on their concerns about the law. And basically, most of their concerns seem to have been met through the nullified 4 sections, at least through the write-up that I saw. So then the question that remains to be seen is the World Bank then comfortable to engage in new funding with the Uganda government? I know that even prior to the ruling, because the World Bank and government of Uganda have remained, engaging, even before the ruling, and the government has been saying that they are almost reaching consensus with the World Bank to resume new funding. The old funding has been ongoing, especially infrastructure in new cities and municipalities, among other projects. So the sources are that with or without the ruling, there was a discussion on inclusivity clauses for all World Bank funding to make sure that there is no discrimination against any category of citizens. So with the ruling then change the engagement that the government has been having with the World Bank, it remains to be seen. But the sanctions and what Uganda needs to do, I think the government has a role, as clearly spelled out in the Constitution, to observe and protect fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens. That's the major cause of sanctions. Let them stop violations of fundamental rights and freedoms of the people.
All right, let's hear from Honorable Paul Mwiru. The implications, we already know about the sanctions. People can no longer travel. Some people cannot travel to some of these Western capitals, but the likelihood of us even having a financial problem, looking at our budget, for instance, the Ministry of Health budget, largely funded by donors, and they are ones who are trying to call us to order and telling us that what you're doing is not right. Are we prepared as a country to deal with that particular challenge? What would you like to see as we even contend with that fact?
Well, personally, admit that I don't believe in neo-colonialism. And what the so-called donors are trying to do actually is to impose their cherished values on the African people. You see, when you go now to some of those countries, they even in their forms, they ask you that, are you straight or you are gay? They have allowed it. They are practicing that. Personally, I don't believe in that if someone has money, must impose a position. I must concede, as the ambassador here will, that this is a very complex topic when dealing with dictators and those who benefit from the Western world who claim to be funding our budget. I saw, actually, when Pastor Male was talking, I think he was lacking one aspect. I was a member of the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, and we kept on receiving memorandums on what were the outcries in the public. There are many schools here which were at first had been licensed, but they had no curriculum which was looked at by the ministry, and they had no qualified teacher in whatever they were doing. So when we interfaced with some of them, we asked them that we need to see your teachers, their qualification. They said, see, for us, we are in an international school. So they thought they knew their curriculum, they knew what they were teaching, and the Minister of Education, it had nothing to ask them about what we were doing. What we discovered, that actually those were recruitment centers. When you looked at, you see, the adoptions, most of the adoptions which were being carried out before we tried to amend the law on the condition of fostering a child. Because of corruption, Pastor Male was talking about, someone would jet in here, and after 2-3 days would be granted an adoption order of a kid. On a close look of the law, it requires to file a report about the condition of a kid through the Office of the Registrar General. But none was being prepared. And if you traveled out of and you went like maybe to these beaches where they are, or even here in Uganda, most of the hotels, by then, you would find those young boys and girls under the guise of being adopted when they are recruited, and at the end of the day, they would find out themselves in that. So one of the mischief the law intended to cure was actually, for me, I was also in a way, Uganda is a very interesting country. By a colleague in the 9th Parliament, when I was going to present the report, so a colleague called me out. They wanted to fail that presentation. So when I stepped out, he told me that, you come out. Don't present the report. So I just looked at that and started imagining. I all remember Parliament. I came to Parliament as an MP. But again, because you see, if you review the parliamentary cameras of that day, most, including women who are in Europa, they moved out of the Parliament to fail the bill from being passed. That's why they hit us on quorum. But it is laughable. You understand? And then I kept on wondering, what type of country are we in where people treasure money and their own values? So the implication of this, for me, I don't see any implication. During COVID, we spent here over 2 years when we were here, and nothing happened. You understand? Nothing happened.
What do you mean nothing happened?
You see, we survived. You understand? We did not need their money.
You actually needed money. You needed money after the lockdown.
No. Actually, the
money came in from IMF and all other places.
We used the preventive method like staying at home.
You needed money.
Washing our hands.
You needed money to buy equipment in hospitals.
Where?
And the money was brought in by the donors.
We were using local herbs. You understand? We were washing our hands. We were staying at home. We see the things we did. You don't require a European.
So, Honorable, are you saying that money was used to fail quorum in the 10th Parliament?
Of course. You see, why Ambassador here, I think we'll disclose. You see, it is about just funding. You know that even most of, actually now let me tell you, most of even of the NGOs, which would be like maybe some of the NGOs, most of the prominent people, even some of the political parties. This is not a new matter. By that time, I was in FDC, and we failed to have a position as a party.
And surprising, even the party where you are now, somebody is asking you to present your position. One of the MPs, Dr. Bedi Bwanika, has officially written to the party asking you people to come out with a position.
And to the best of my knowledge, the party was clear on the matter, and his request is being processed. The party will come up still with a position on that.
All right.
But for me, the point I'm saying, you see, when the president talks about Pan-Africanism, you cannot talk about Pan-Africanism without Pan-Ugandaism. You understand? What do we stand for as a country? What can't we trade? What are the minimum values as a country?
All right.
So for me, this business of creating Uganda to look like a colony, either of America or of any other continent, for me, I don't know. This business of, you say I would deny the visa. When I presented the report, immediately I applied for, I was supposed to go for a parliamentary trip. So they told me they want to guarantee my stay in America by then because I just presented the report. And I took no offense. I would have taken offense if they asked me to go to my village in Kabuche, where actually I am from.
All right.
Because you see, that's my ancestral place. But not to go to America, I had no problem with that.
All right.
Yes.
Let's hear from Honorable Simon Mlongo, then we come to Pastor Solomon Mali. Honorable Mlongo, the implications.
Yes.
Can we deal with them? Can we avoid the suffering that so many other people are
feeling? First of all, I want to agree with the Honorable here, because when he made the presentation in the House, it was a very big challenge. A number of people went out.
Did you remain in the House?
Yes, I did. The issue is that a lot of campaign goes on in this country without knowledge of many people. And a lot of money exchanges hands in a number of these legislations.
You realize you're saying that actually members of parliament can be corrupted to actually pass a law in a certain way or reject a law. That's what you're saying.
Well, those are your words. I'm saying that money passes a lot, exchanges a lot hands. And people are put under pressure. And some people even find it even harder to contest it in their constituencies because certain forces, invisible forces, come after them. And I believe that some of us lost for many reasons, one of which could have been the AHA law that we did pass at that time. So people will come in the constituency, they will campaign you, they will fail you, and money is just coming from certain unclear sources and so on and so forth. But because we don't have clear intelligence on this, we don't have certain facts, you can't say money was wired from this source and that, and so it becomes difficult. But I can tell you that a lot happens in this country because of that. It's not just about government. It's about even the people, the actors in this country. But the point you're raising, the first question was, what are the implications? I don't think there will be implications because of court ruling. Implications started happening because of the passing of the law by Parliament. When the president...
There was hope that the court might quash it.
I can tell you that if it is the worst has happened already. I can say that once the president ascended the law to the bill and it became the law, that's when actually the worst started happening. And whatever is going to happen, much more, will be just additional. I don't think... but now, even if you say they would had hope in the court, but they may still be having hope in the Supreme Court. Something like that. So I don't think that that hope to them, for those who want to, can fail. The other one is we need to know where this thing is coming from. The issue of LGBTQ has its own history. The movement started in the 40s and 50s. It gathered momentum in the 60s, where people wanted freedom from the intricacies of culture. Why can't I just have sex with anything I want and with anybody I want? Why should I say this is my daughter, this is my goat, this is my aunt? And the thing started building. People don't want manners to be controlled. And that's how it built into this momentum, what it is. Now, those people who have built momentum as a constituency that managed to make the entry into the legal codes in the West, want us to also to follow suit. Without even looking at our history, we have never gone through those kind of cultural tides. So why should we just jump and go into that?
All right.
So no. You're still asking me the question, and I say I'm still answering
Very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. You gave the honourable pastor some good time. Give me also. The issues that yes, we're going to have some definitely challenges, economic challenges, because we've been dependent on a number of strings from the West. And if some of these governments in the West cut or even reduce, there are implications. But must we change simply because of that? We must not. Because the condition upon which they want to fund our activities are so unacceptable to the people of Uganda. And we cannot accept that. And I think that it's a time for us to adjust to the way we must have fiscal discipline. Issues of corruption, we must deal with it radically so that we can do as much savings as we can. And we must change the friends. If the West is becoming too hostile, we must change to other people who can be more friendly, who do not condition us to give us support. And I think that's what the government is already doing. And I can tell you that as the NRM government, a member of the NRM party, we're looking at other options. We're not going just to wait for those people to hurt us.
Already you have China, Russia.
Yes,
and
we have
warming up to the Middle East.
Yes, warming up to the Middle East.
Right.
And we're working so hard to build internal capacity.
All right.
So that we can generate resources that can make us more independent as much as possible.
Pastor Solomon Mali, the implications, the fear people have.
Sometimes I feel baffled when I'm with people who live in Utopia. And these are our honorables, whom we call honorables in parliament, in cabinet, who talk as if everybody accesses the privileges they have. These I call the chosen and privileged few who are enjoying. They get treatment in the US, they get treatment in Canada, in India, South Africa, Europe, all over. And they are not minding about their constituents who go to Mulago when there are no medications, who go to Mbarara Hospital when there are no medications. I remember the Minister of ICT.
How is that connected to the law?
Look, when they freeze aid, supportive programs, the common man must suffer. Who's funding our infrastructure development? It's the West. Who's funding our healthcare system?
It's not entirely the West, Pastor. No.
The money that we collect here is stolen. The politicians are thieving.
It's not entirely the West.
The politicians are thieving it. Okay?
Part of the money is actually your taxes you pay.
Listen to
Pastor
me.
Solomon.
Even they are just in money. You see the recent reports in Parliament, how they are simply eating money left, right, and center. The executive eating money right.
But
and
we're
center.
not as worse as pastors who collect who flees it.
But you've
so much.
You have given the pastors patronage to rob the desperate. So I hold the two. The pastors and the politicians are bedfellows.
It's a case of both of you standing before the mirror.
No. Me. At least I stand out on my own, and I'm saying it's wrong. These people are just deceiving us. Do you know what is happening?
So you
every budget.
So are you saying Parliament was wrong to pass the law because the
Listen to
implication
me.
is to cut the aid?
They are hypocrites. Every budget that passes has a component of funding homosexual activities by government. Go to Mulago. Seek out for MAPI clinic. Honorable, go to Mulago. You know MAPI clinic in Mulago? You go to Mbarara Hospital. There is MAPI, Most at Risk People's Initiative. Sarah, you know that program?
Most at what?
Most at Risk People's Initiative, MARPI. When you go there, government is procuring lubricants, sex lubricants for homosexuals, hormones for homosexuals, condoms for homosexuals, everything that they need. You go to Mulago Hospital and ask for MAPI clinic. Invite me back here and say, Marie, you lied on air.
Kenneth, I think I need to help Pastor out. You say, at times, the way he talks, people may think that whatever he's saying actually is correct.
All right, let's get some
in
information.
budgeting, there is what we call the budget support and project support. Budget support forms part of what Parliament appropriates and deals with as part of the donor component. Whereas project support, some doesn't need to come to Parliament because these are projects the way they are. So for you,
listen.
So now I'm teaching you on that one.
No, you don't have to teach me.
So for you to say,
in a country where the president does not support homosexuality, where the speaker does not support homosexuality,
under which vote?
Listen
does
to
that
me.
money
Listen to
get
me.
appropriated, Pastor Mali?
Even in 2018, they were given 200
through which sector budget?
28.5 billion.
Through which sector budget?
You can look for the budget. The story even ran in Monitor. It was the minister.
We want you to guide us properly.
The minister
to tell us: is it under the presidency? Is it under the minister?
They are actual listeners, so you need to
listen to me.
Give him time.
Go and look for Dr. Nantulia because he heads that coordination. Where government actually, when I think it was Honorable Sarah Opendi, who was saying that no, we are not doing, and then he said, please be careful, otherwise you'll block the funding if you don't allow this to pass.
Now, which funding? You see,
I'm not a parliamentarian. You come here to lie.
No, that's why Honorable Mweru is asking you.
Listen to me.
To tell us the exact vote under which.
Now, let me ask Honorable Mweru. Listen, in a country where we don't support homosexuality, where we passed a law against homosexuality, how then can homos be procuring or can lubricants be procured by homosexuals for homosexuality purposes and are given out freely in Mulago National Referral Hospital?
So let him answer.
You see, Pastor Malay is proving to be an expert without borders.
Please don't just abuse me.
That's not an abuse.
No, it's just insubordination.
No.
I just want to.
Don't read the law. He doesn't know the law. No. You don't need to help me.
Let me put this.
Disprove me that MAPI clinic does not exist.
Gentlemen.
That it doesn't cater for homosexual purposes.
Gentlemen.
For homosexuals. Disprove me.
Pastor Male.
If you're correcting me, disprove me.
Pastor Male.
Is in there MAPI clinic in Mulago.
Pastor Male, just a few minutes ago, you did say that MPs are thieves. But they did not jump up to attack you. So now when they say you do not have story, you are an expert. You are an expert on everything, and you're jumping up. You're saying you are.
I'm not an expert on everything. I'm telling you what I know.
Honorable Paul,
clinic is not there.
Let's go for a break. When we return, I'll give you an opportunity to respond and probably also help us to understand when you're talking about a project budget and you're also talking about budget support, whether actually Pastor Solomon Malay's submission can stand during this discussion. Let's go for a break now.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90. FM 90.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Spectrum Extra live on Radio 1 FM 90. The panel today, looking at the implication of the Constitutional Court ruling, will also be turning around to another topic, which will be the missing supporters of NUP and those who are under incarceration 3 years down the road. There's a new effort to have them released. Is it agreeable? Should we pursue this effort and make sure that these people are actually released? I'm speaking to the Honorable Simon Mulongo, Pastor Solomon Malay, Dr. Sarah Birete, and the Honorable Paul Mwiru, who will be coming next on the microphone. But let me read out just a few comments that have already come in. We have a comment from Ariko in Tororo. Honestly speaking, Uganda has minerals, good climate, food, oil, and many more. But America only has paper money, but we continue adoring them because of ignorance. Let all Ugandans just ignore these guys, but only work on corruption to save the little that we have. Then we have another comment. Pastor Malay said that as a counselor, he cannot report his patient. I think that is wrong because not reporting a crime makes you accomplice to the crime. Does he mean if his patient was a successful serial killer, he would use the same approach? I think he needs to rethink his stand. That's a comment from Triagenda Gelvis. Pastor Mala, I'll give you an opportunity to respond, but let's first hear from the Honorable Paul Mwiru.
Because I'm on this program, I think I need to lay some facts, to make some facts straight.
All right.
One, there is a difference between project support and budget support. Budget support is the donor fund, the donors, if they want to support our budget, they make clear what they want to contribute on the part of the budget and it's appropriated as part of our budget. Whereas project support, can just come into the country like what the money the pastors have, like the money is talking about in Mulago, wherever it is. And as government, as parliament, we used to have a problem that we would appropriate money, let's say under Minister of Health. When it comes to absorption capacity, you realize that the absorption capacity is too low. Let's say at 20% for the government projects. For government projects, yes. But for these projects from the donors, the technical staff would concentrate almost all their time. And we realize that they have not observed the government money, but they have observed the project money. So some of these projects Pastor Malay is talking about, they can exist in Mulago, in wherever they are, but when they have nothing to do,
not appropriated by Parliament.
Because Parliament only looks at money they have appropriated as Parliament. So I thought I should make that also very clear, because the way he was talking, it was looking like a budget was brought in Parliament, there was a component of homosexuality, and Parliament voted the money for that purpose. That's not
annually, it passes.
No,
please don't lie.
But I think
Kenneth, you see,
all right,
I thought I should.
I think
what
Pastor Malay is suggesting that there is a clinic in Mulago and in Mbarara where
all national referral hospitals
where homosexuals are treated.
Where
then
Parliament has voted
no, I think that's what he's trying to say. And then the question would be, should they be denied treatment in case they develop some sort of complications?
No, but I think you need to put right. First of all, I agree with the pastor that we have very many corrupt people in this country. But we should not point fingers and specify that so and so, these are the ones who are corrupt. These MPs who are corrupt. I'm not corrupt, for example. I'm not. And I've never been accused of corruption. And I've been a member of parliament. I've been in very significant positions where I've never been accused of stealing. I don't. And I don't know the Honorable Muira has ever been accused at all. I've never had him being accused of being corrupt. Nobody has ever paid me money to do wrong things. And I've never abused my office.
You're not in parliament now.
No, I'm not, but I've held positions.
Those in parliament.
Yes, but I've been in parliament. Yes, and I've been there. So I don't think. Let's not adjust. So I think it's not correct.
And also, Pastor Solomon Malay,
please,
professionally, to be wrong also to point fingers at people who are not on this table to defend.
And he even said,
but
then the pastor said, it is these ones, he even put fingers at us. That's wrong. Because even in the ministries of churches, there's a lot of corruption. And what we see, and I'm aware, I've worked in institutions where we've been monitoring churches. Some of them even create clips of raising the dead, people from the dead into life. And they send them out there and they get millions of money. They even pretend to be feeding the homeless people, kids in Kampala, and then they are given support. We know so much that goes on in churches. So I don't think it's right to just point at people like now, us who are here, or anybody out there, unless we have evidence.
All of us with Pastor Maro were on the same page on the question of homosexuality. Actually, the only point of the divergence is where he thinks that the law as is didn't contribute much, but we're all against homosexuality. I think we should also make that very clear. I think we're on the same page on that.
And if this law was not as strong as the pastor is putting it, maybe he wanted something much more solid than that. But this was a consensus. You had to look at so many sides, look at benchmarking in so many other areas and so on, and that's why we're being penalized. If this law was not that bad, wouldn't be penalized by those wishers, those who should have bad. It wouldn't be.
My approach was, let us clean up the systems that are hindering implementations of all of the laws we have. Let me tell you something. When I was coming, I passed via, not Buganda Road, but Nakasero Road. There is President's Office, Land Department. How did the President come up with the Land Department when the courts are there? It's because the systems are stinking rotten, stinking corrupt. They do not work. They actually do not offer justice. Look at the many killings going on in land matters, land cases. It's because of the failure of the systems. And I said, why make another law? Give it to the same systems that have hindered the operations, the implementations of the laws, to still monitor, to still implement. you make another law, you give it to police. You make another law, give it to police. When police is the problem. Because when I came up to fight homosexuality, the institutions I identified as problematic was the police, the Directorate of Public Prosecutions, and the judiciary. And I said, we need them cleaned. They are not cleaned. People are still suffering. They are crying because of injustice, because of impunity, criminality with impunity. Then why more laws? This is what I say. All right. Clean up the systems. If you are really serious as honorables and parliamentarians.
All right, let's hear from Dr. Sarah.
Government has a law reform commission. They have not done anything.
I think the quest for social justice is important, and the functional institutions. For me, the point Pastor seems to be pushing, if there is collapse of institutions, does the president creating a mini department at State House sort of that?
It doesn't.
Isn't he failing in his executive authority?
Actually, the executive has failed, the legislature has failed, then the judiciary has failed.
You need to tell the president that he has failed
that he is not
to exercise his executive authority to protect the constitution and constitutionalism.
Sarah, that's why I said this coming up with more laws is just bluffing. When we know the problem is not lack of laws, but it is the system. Okay, the law is there. Is it going to work?
Maybe, Dr. Sarah, do you think this law will be implemented, even in its current form?
It's not going to work.
Laws. For instance, the Human Rights Enforcement Act and the law that talks on the issue of torture. We have so many laws on our books, but some of them are never implemented.
Even murder.
Yes,
against murder.
I know. Uganda has 80% good laws and 20% bad laws.
Doctor, you have to give us
I want to give
reference.
Yes.
Authorities.
Yes, we have bad
percentage.
laws like the Public Order Management Act.
No. Where is the authority of your 80%?
Let's allow her to continue. Honorable Simon.
I'm talking to
Yes.
Dr. PhD.
You are protected.
Just
You are
a
protected.
minute. Yes, we have bad laws like the Public Order Management Act, Anti-Money Laundering Act, Anti-Terrorism Act. You can name them. We have a range of 19 laws that conflict or cross civic space in Uganda. That is the freedom of association, assembly, and expression. You can talk of the clauses in the Political Parties and Organizations Act that prohibit some levels of fundraising. All those are bad laws. They don't facilitate our democracy to grow.
Even America, they restrict.
Yeah, but to restrict at what level? You see, political parties, if they were to follow the law on fundraising, what can you do with 400 million? You can only do press conferences in Kampala after paying rent. So that's why I said the laws are not facilitating democracy to grow. Some laws are crossing civic space on human rights and freedom of expression. So that's why I said it's a 80-20 ratio. And the implementation seems to focus on the negative. When you say you ring police that my building is catching fire, and then somebody says Besigye or Bobi Wine are here, it seems there is a protest. Where does the police go? That is the controversy with our policing, political policing in this country. So when you talk about general issues of social justice...
Has it happened or you're imagining?
No, but it happens.
The issue of Wonder House catching fire and when did it happen?
First of all, those are two different departments. There's a police fire services.
You're using imagination.
We have the anti-riot
impute rubber motive.
And Bobi Wine are here. Even the army will join. It is the greatest emergency for the security forces in this country.
Not the fire.
Not the fire, not the robbery, not whatever. So this political policing and politicization of police has distorted the rule of law and the protection of human rights in the country.
All right. Victims become accused.
All right.
And the perpetrator has become
Honorable
Honorable
Simon Mulongo, there is the other aspect of actually what Pastor Solomon Male hinted on, politicizing this law, using it as a political tool against your opponents. We have seen, for instance, some people within your party, NUP, your party, National Resistance Movement, I beg your pardon, saying that other political parties need to come up with positions on this issue. For instance, the NUP party So I've seen also the leader of that political party actually saying that the law has been weaponized against the opposition.
No, for us, we're doing what the will of the people wants.
Or maybe let me ask you,
And,
do you think political parties need to have positions on the issue of homosexuality?
Yes, because this matter has become a critical national issue that people must make clear. Because now the whole world, the Western world is coming on us. We're being persecuted over things that we believe are right and correct for our people in this country. So really to ask people to come up and state their positions is just very good, because some of them are suspects. In fact, I'm surprised that the Honorable Mwiru here, my good friend and brother, who's wearing red, rightfully red, or is it called maroon? Rightfully maroon, is presenting this kind of position. I don't know if it's a personal position or a party position, because some people believe that our colleagues in red are towards certain lines that are not to that effect. We have seen the leader of NUP associating, conducting business, and fully being welcomed in many fora that are to do with the LGBTQ. So this has given pointers that since the head is the one who determines so many things, the entire party fraternity is actually for homosexuality. So in this case, to ask them to be very clear.
Let's hear from Paul Mwiru.
I think to me that is very clear for people to come out and be counted.
All right, let's hear from Paul Mwiru.
Well, you see, Honorable Simon Mlongo was my RDC in Jinja.
Don't fear, he will not arrest you from
by
here.
that time, still he was behaving professionally. He didn't look desperate like he is now, wanting to tag a nationality platform to homosexuality.
Let's allow it. Can he?
He has to withdraw that.
Let's allow him.
That I'm desperate. I'm not desperate.
He is your colleague. Let him clarify.
Can you withdraw that part of desperation?
Let him clarify.
Actually,
Honorable Mwiru, can you justify desperation or withdraw it?
Let me clarify.
Is it by action or by words?
Actually, the word desperate is contextual and depends on the depth of the use of the word. And
There's nothing like shallow use.
I've used it
I am moderating this show.
I've used it contextually.
I'm not accepting to proceed for him to say I am desperate.
By trying to create a nexus.
Because am I desperate?
Let me now explain that, yes. Let me explain to that.
Can we have some order?
I can look at the word
He was
desperate.
desperate to try to create a nexus.
Mr. Moderator,
I'll give you an opportunity.
Unless he withdraws the word desperate.
No.
He doesn't need to.
I don't know.
Allow him to clarify. Let's allow him to clarify.
Yes.
I'll validate it.
No,
I've seen him.
I cannot come
Allow him to clarify.
to an airwave like this
Allow him to clarify.
and be termed being desperate, and I accept it.
Let's allow him to give an explanation.
I cannot accept
And we
it.
see whether
Let
you
him justify
agree with
it.
it. Let's
You
hear.
see,
I cannot accept
His
it.
statement.
first he has made a statement with those stencil of evidence that the nationality platform is aligned to homosexuality.
He said.
I said the leader.
Allow me to put to
Yes.
He said
Yes.
your leader has embraced those around that issue, and there's a likelihood that could be the position, and some people are thinking so.
And I'm surprised that you are not.
And actually, and I'm saying, is desperate trying to create a nexus between my leader and the homosexuality, to the extent that the forums where my leader goes as a party leader, the other members, and he has no stencil of evidence that actually he goes to attend gatherings of homosexuals. That's why I was qualifying. He's desperate. Actually, it isn't only him. All governmental apologists have tried to create a nexus between NUP, my leader, and the homosexuality.
Dr. Bedwan,
and yes, and we have come out categorically.
Dr. Bedwan is a member of your party.
Yes.
He's actually the one who has written.
Yes.
And he has been on the airwaves,
Yes.
online on some media houses, actually saying there's a problem of homosexuality in NUP.
You see, Dr. Wanika has raised the issue and has addressed it to Honorable Nambeshi, the chief whip.
Is Dr. Wanika
And the
desperate?
chief whip,
Let's allow him to
and the chief whip is processing a meeting for Dr. Wanika to come and substantiate on what is raising. It is his word against the party, So it is him to come and actually speak. My understanding of his letter is that actually it must be discussed by him leading evidence. I like for me, I can't throw out statements. I can't substantiate. That's why I was pushed to quit to see that my good friend Honorable Mulongo would despite want to create a nexus between the party president of NUP and homosexuality.
So I guess
which actually has dismally failed.
So I think it's that it's at that point where you shake hands.
No problem with him.
Can we have you shaking hands?
Actually, Honorable Mulongo is one of those ideologues.
As Pastor Malik comes on the mic.
Only that he wants to go in the wrong direction.
All right.
There's wrong direction.
Do we need to have political parties taking positions?
As an NRM man, I have never gone in the wrong direction.
Let me state very clearly. I still lead the crusade against homosexuality, de facto leader. Bobby Wine came up with a song that led him to be barred from entering the UK, which was against homosexuality. Okay? Until it was recently lifted. Our presidents, that is NRM, say they don't support homosexuality. But Mulago National Referral Hospital, these MAPI is thriving under a leadership that does not support homosexuality. Of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and NRM.
Let's allow him.
We should have to have this because it is the second time.
Let's allow him to go.
I want to state here.
Justifying a statement.
I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm going to give you an opportunity. Let's allow Pastor Malik to conclude.
Okay. Now, is Bobby Wine the head of state to allow MAPI to flourish in Mulago and other hospitals where homosexuals are allowed to have free, not treatment, but free lubricants to do their thing better, and hormones, which can change them into males and females.
No.
It is in Mulago National Referral Hospital.
No.
You go there.
We will have
give them money.
We will have to reach out to Mulago.
You go there and all these
to have this information clarified.
I think we need to
official.
Honorable Mulongo, I'm not lying. I'm Pastor Male.
Being Pastor Male doesn't mean you're not a liar.
Let me say
one of His Excellency's great friend, Pastor Robert Kayanja, is always.
Now I see where the problem is coming from.
Let me say this.
I can see where the problem is coming over the pastor.
Honorable Simon Mulongo.
Homos are funding this country.
Honorable Simon Mulongo. Let me say this.
Homos are bringing funds in this country.
Let me say
and that's why we are now
Pastor Male,
at a stalemate.
Pastor Male, you made two allegations. Yes. One against Pastor Kayanja, the other one about MAPI in Mulago.
Yes.
I would like to say professionally, those two sides are not represented on this table.
I own.
To defend themselves.
I own.
So,
it is me, Moses.
No, but you are not here.
Not
in the other. No, but the law
is
stating
it, Dr. Sara.
I'm stating it. The law. Don't tell me the laws.
Political parties should have
to say about the laws. Because the laws which govern us.
Dr. Sara.
But as a country, we have one national position. Political parties are governed by laws that are enacted by Parliament. True. If anybody wanted to know the position of NUP, they should have followed how NUP members voted in the process of enacting the law. Beyond enacting the law, I think such questions are irrelevant, are idle, and it's a waste of our time.
Good.
Yes.
All right.
No. I just want to say, I was just checking about MAPI, and I have it here, where they say they were established in 2008. Under their forefront of building resilient health systems and helping those who are vulnerable populations. Now, the fact that they have these facilities to help people with HIV, SRHR, all those things, they are ailments in this country. And they are helping those who are not able to support themselves because for some reason they're disadvantaged. Now, if you're talking about lubricants, the lubricants are found everywhere.
Do you also use them?
These lubricants.
Do you also use them?
Just a minute.
Do you also use them?
No, I don't. But the thing is that lubricants are not just for only one purpose.
Sex lubricants.
All right. We have a comment here from one listener called Tom, who is weighing in on this discussion of MAPI. He says, Dear Spectrum, Extra. Thank you for today's timely debate. In view of the current developments, the issue of MAPI needs to be explored deeply. As for lubricants, I do not know if they are homosexual-specific lubricants which are not used by heterosexuals. So I cannot comment on this, but what I have heard is that their condoms for heterosexuals are different. Is MAPI procuring these condoms? If they are, that is totally unacceptable. That's a comment there from a listener. I think, gentlemen, and
but that's a very important
point.
From this, we'll try to reach out from the Minister of Health on that particular issue. We have another comment from Robert Nkumi, Spectrum Extra. Honorable Mwiru is not entirely sincere. All the health infrastructure during COVID-19, including test kits, PCR machines, and vaccines, were given to us by colonialists and imperialists. People have jumped on this anti-homosexuality thing for 2026, and nearing elections, colonialists and purists are enemy, especially for Ugandans who do not read between the lines. Here in Nkumi, homosexuality is not even heard of. That is Robert Nkumi. Another comment from John in Boyogerere. The money the West is threatening to withhold was accumulated from the exploitation of Africa, including through slavery. We can only call their bluff if we get our house in order. The ruling party these days talks as if it had absolutely nothing to do with the rampant corruption. Our leaders live large as if we have unlimited resources. Ending corruption alone would release enough money to cover what we borrow from World Bank and the West as a whole. Our roads are the most expensive to build in the world because of corruption. We can't fight corruption if the Mulongos speak as if it's someone else's business. Let's live within our means. Let's cut travel. Let's reduce the size of parliament, cabinet, and remove the duplication of too many authorities. This will release all the money that we need. John in Boyogerere with those particular comments. Now, gentlemen and lady, we need actually to move on and look at...
No, but have we cleared the air that
discussion?
The issue of MAPI is not necessarily dedicated to homosexuals. And I want to reject that because it does HIV people, it had cancer.
That is what is on the paper.
Yes, but you go to Mulago.
All right, we have another comment.
And see what is there.
Chagulanyi said his MPs were bribed to pass the law and many are working for Museveni. We need answers from Dr. Abed Wanika's letter. That's another comment there from another listener. Well, let's wrap up the discussion. Your final word on this particular topic, even before we move on to the other.
My point is that all persons have human rights that they are born with. These human rights are inherent. We need to...
Do you support the law or not?
Let's allow her to conclude.
You want to conclude for me?
No, you conclude.
He's intimidating you.
Yes, I'm saying human rights are universal, are inherent, and they should be upheld for all individuals.
And then what have you said?
Personally,
what the Constitutional Court has come up with has actually reduced the so-called popular Anti-Homosexuality Act to almost nothing. That we can do away with and maintain the old laws on the penal code. No one was making noise about the penal code. And we're using it to convict. A man was sentenced to 30 years for sodomizing a 6-year-old boy. Then a Pakistani was sentenced to 10 years for sodomizing Sulaimani Kasoro. I've handled very many cases. We have good laws on the penal code. Actually, we didn't need this law. And it's so sad that we now have it and we are facing this. And our politicians, because of popularity, of course, they want it because they want to continue deceiving the people there. That, you see, the problem is the West, the problem is the West, the problem is here. We have thieves here who keep stealing the money. We would be funding our own healthcare system. But now, for them, Mulongo will be taken to India or UK. My brother Mwiru will be probably
there.
Germany.
You go again. Let's hear from Honorable
But me,
Paul Mwiru.
I'll be going to Mulago.
Your closing shots on this issue.
When the money to fund Mulago has been frozen. That is very, very unfair and very short-sightedness.
Yes, my brother Ariko from Soroti. I don't subscribe to a view that for me to have an opinion or to have a belief system, someone must impose something on me, or my belief system is exchangeable with the money, as the donors are actually saying. But I want just to respond to him in one statement, that if you eliminate the budget corruption, which takes place at budgeting, and we create nugatory expenditures in the government, the same money we have can fund our budget, and actually we don't have to run to the donors. On the question of, yes, the law, what was removed, I think government can cross-appeal the decision, but the question of promotion of homosexuality, as it were, by people who are actually making money out of the process. I know this had eaten up the fabric of society through money. And some people who are doing it as a business seem not to see a problem. But for me, I read the bill by Honorable Basarirwa. And you see, the reason why the amendment is continuing to cure the mischief. We shall continue studying the views of Pastor Mali. If, in the opinion of many, believe that actually there's more improvement to make, that was not the last amendment which would be done. Thank you.
Right, Section 148 of the Penal Code deals with recruitment.
Let's go for a break.
No, I haven't said my
very quickly, okay, in a few seconds.
To me, first of all, this law remains substantively important. The Penal Code
I'll continue
and other provisions are in place, but this law definitely took into consideration all other legal provisions in existence in this country before it was made. And as such, we are still good to go, and we shall definitely, as long as the law is in place, then we have a basis of criminalizing.
Let's go for a break now. When we return, we'll shift the gears and look at the missing persons and the NUP supporters. Should we allow the government actually to take the lead in having them released, or should we stick with the position of their party that there is no negotiation, they should be released unconditionally? Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90 will continue after this break.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
The NUP supporters, close to 3 years now. No one knows where they are. The government at one point said they had them. One time the Prime Minister was on the floor of Parliament and said they had one of them who had been arrested. He was among those who attempted to burn the city. Now, a new Minister for Youth and Children Affairs, Balaam Barugahara, said the president is ready to release these people. He wants a list. A list was presented to him in Parliament this very week, but there seems to be a pull here and there. Well, NUP thinks the government wants to get political capital out of this. The government also seems to suggest that NUP is also looking for political capital, because the more they continue having these people incarcerated, the more they make noise and become relevant on this particular issue. I'll begin with you, Dr. Sarah Bilete. On this issue of NUP, should we trust Balaam Barugahare that he can actually lead a crusade to have these people released, where the Uganda Human Rights Commission failed, where Parliament failed? We know there was a walkout by the opposition for almost a full month. Human rights agencies in this country have called for the release of these people. Now, all of a sudden, a new minister is saying they can actually be released.
Well, Honorable Balaam has started with this crusade of attempt to rescue NUP supporters, and I've put rescue in quotes, attempt to rescue NUP supporters that were kidnapped or arrested during elections. Balaam can only succeed if the regime wants to set free these people, because after all, they are the ones who kidnapped them, who arrested them, and they can only set them free because they committed no crime. Supporting an opposition candidate is not a crime anywhere in our law books in this country. And as far as I know, that's the crime they committed. So if the regime decided to set them free, to just give a little political capital to Balaam, that's the only thing that can happen. But the freedom of these people is important. Nobody should be arrested for a crime they did not commit. So serve justice. It could be the ploy of the regime to make Balaam look successful amongst young people, and a ploy to prepare for support for 2026 elections. They are the ones illegally holding NUP supporters. They should set them free unconditionally.
Pastor Solomon Mali.
I've always said there is no reason in a country which claims to be democratic, where we say power belongs to the people, and then you start arresting people just because they don't agree with what you stand for, or they support your opponent. That cannot be democracy. Probably it's pseudo-democracy. And that's why I said I think that we have a burden as a country, the luggage we carry. Either we do it well and try to offload ourselves, otherwise it will crush us. And that is His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Because he's now the solution. When it comes to matters of land, he's the solution. When it comes to justice, he's the solution. Poverty, he's the money giver. Life, even when during lockdown, the pastors told him, please open us too so that we can work. So he became a god. So if we have a demigod leading this country, that is the problem we face. I believe that NUP supporters committed no offense, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be released. But then, if the only way to release them is for Balaam to do it, I see nothing wrong with that. Let us not put a hindrance to that. And that's why I'm saying, let me reiterate it on the microphone. When I was here, I said, we need to work out a transfer of power program from His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to another leader. As a country, we've never had a peaceful change or transfer of power. Post-independence, Obote overthrew Mutesa with a gun. Amin overthrew Obote with a gun, 71. 79, Amin was overthrown by the gun. Obote was overthrown, Lule was overthrown by the people who put him there, the Musevenis, by the gun. Then Paul Mwanga, overthrown by the people who put him there, the military commission where Museveni was the vice chairman. Then 1980, the vote we had, it was decided by the gunshots, firepower, and then they declared that UPC had won and Obote became the president. Then 1981 to 86, it was a bloodbath. Over 1 million people lost their lives. And then we are promised a fundamental change where elections would never be stolen, where the rule of law would be upheld, where this so-called extrajudicial killing and arrests would not be, and where we would have a self-sustaining national economy, where the political terrain would be equal for everybody, where democracy would be the right for everyone. And here, 38 years down the road, we see the same atrocities that were being committed during the regimes, which were overthrown by the gun, still being committed. Although we now vote, but it is a decided matter that a mere vote will never change the presidency of this country.
All right.
And that's why I say, Honorable Mlongo, go and sweet talk with the president and tell him, Pastor Male has a proposal that, one, you are given immunity from prosecution for whatever wrong you've done with your people. 2, you are given a package so that you rest, whether in Rakitura or Chisozi. 3, no one is going to touch you. Then you become an advisor and oversee what is happening. So that for the first time in this country, we can have what I crave for. I don't know whether, Mulongo, you crave for it. The first ever peaceful transfer of power from one president to another. That's what I crave for.
Honorable Simon,
my children are grown-ups. I don't want them to pay the price we paid in bloodbath. We are having these young people of NUP arrested because there is no sincerity in the elections and there is no will to leave power by the people in power. That's why NUP and others, even FDC, continue being arrested, and they'll continue being arrested. And even if shooting at them will continue.
During Jesus' time,
change that.
During Jesus' time, there were groups,
ambassador, you've been given
groups of people, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and others. And they used to talk so nicely about the scriptures because they're the ones who they are high priests and so on. But when it came to really practically to live, to walk the talk, they could not. So when I hear some pastors who have remained at the helm of the churches permanently, They can't even allow succession in their own churches. But they're the ones who can sing about change. So you wonder what it all is about.
You want succession in matters of God?
Yes, they should be there.
I thought.
What I mean is that when you see
being a pastor is a calling.
The pastors are running their business.
What I mean?
That's why it's from
And also,
the thing is, it is institutional leadership.
Let's allow
Institutional leadership. If you are the helm of your leadership, or of your institution as a leader, and you have been the same person for all those years, and they are young pastors you have nurtured, you have not even allowed them to come on top, but you're the same person who wants to see change somewhere else. You wonder whether they are...
I put the
Are you comparing a church to a country?
I'm saying, if you put institutional leadership and there needs to be healthy change,
A church is a business.
Exactly. And hallelujah. I understand now. I have no further questions. If the church is the business,
And for record, Pastor Male does not stand on the pulpit. He's
I
not,
quit
he's not a pastor.
the pulpit to address people's church.
Yes. But he is a pastor.
But you seem to agree.
I'm just saying,
Pastor.
he has not preached the same message somewhere else.
Let's allow-
Let me just say,
elsewhere.
so you haven't. You have not told other church leaders to also show.
I want to see the
cause.
first
You have
ever
not.
peaceful
But how
transfer.
can you
It was just a small matter. It was
Are you going to carry Pastor
Uganda
Male's
is not
message?
Museveni.
Listen. Let's listen to Honorable Mlo.
I've given you a message.
Let's allow him.
to the
You gave
president.
him a message. Let's
Yes.
hear if he will carry a message.
I will not carry that message because
It has implications.
that message.
Fear.
I don't fear.
Let's
You
allow,
fear.
let's allow him to speak.
Okay, give the reason.
Let's allow him
If
to
you want to
speak.
speak for me, then you're going to speak with the president. But you have given me a message, and you want me to respond because I have to respond.
You're
to this.
right. Yes, we can.
I will not carry the message because that message is usually delivered by voters regularly. They vote people in, they vote people out.
When it is free and fair.
And yes, well, you can always qualify it the way you want, but I'm telling you that the president is voted in, and whenever he contests, it's very tough for him to go through the elections, and when he wins, then he is there. So for you to say that you're promising me that you have no capacity, the second reason I cannot take that message, you have no capacity to protect him because you're assuring him. What assurance are you giving him? You're just speaking wishful
Not in Mali.
promise that
A
you cannot
country,
fulfill.
we come up with a law.
Yeah,
that immunity.
Yeah, but then the law has not come up, has it?
Listen.
He said, listen, let me
Mali.
paraphrase to him.
Okay.
He actually said he has a proposal. Tell
Yes.
the president that
I heard the proposal.
There can be immunity for him and his group. He can go to Achitura
The golden
and
parachute.
become
Like
an advisor.
Moi.
He can also have
Yes,
a golden parachute.
the assurance he's trying to give is already provided for.
All right. Let's move back.
Succession Act has very clear. Those who retire as former heads of state and former vice presidents and so on, we have clear legal provisions that also guarantees whatever you're trying to say.
Actually, that is
so
not
you
a
don't have
succession.
to say.
It's not a succession
It's
act.
not a
No. Yes, sorry.
We do not have a succession act at the moment. But let's go to the principle of this discussion. Should we trust the message being brought by the new minister, Baramba Gahare, to have the NUP people released?
This was the request that was made to the president. And some others are just trying to jump on it to make political capital out of it. This should be left to the Honorable Bergara, who had put it to the president, and the president had promised to look into it. And he has not come out to say whether he's going to release or not to release.
He actually said something.
Yes, he asked for some details.
Yes,
to be given.
The security people to get him the list.
Yes, but he said they leave it to him. So it will be between him and the Honorable Bargahad. For those who are trying to jump on the Chigali, are trying to make political capital for nothing.
All right. Let me ask you a question. There are people who have said that the president has no power to pardon people who have not been convicted. He can only do that under the prerogative of mercy.
It is the other way around.
The NUP actually says if these people have any crime, they should be charged. Something you have not done for the last 3 years.
The president did not promise to release people who have been convicted. Who are not yet convicted. He promised to look at the list because they have not been convicted. He can use administrative measures to have them released. He can. So those who are trying to interpret the law, yes? I mean, he can. If, for example, he speaks to the DPP, and if the DPP does not have adequate evidence, for example, they can drop the charges.
The DPP has to wait for the president to tell them.
Not wait.
All right.
The request was put. The president has means and mechanisms to intervene at any stage.
I thought professionally the DPP would look at the file and say there is no evidence here, and it is continued prosecution.
He has not, and he cannot. But what I'm saying is that he has mechanisms and measures to do that.
It is what we call order from above.
Let's hear from
order from above can probably sort the problem.
Let's hear from the foot soldier, Honorable Paul Muiru.
This country. Thank you, Kenneth.
What is exciting, Honorable Paul Muiru?
Well, Kenneth,
what did he use on me?
Let him. He said you are desperate. But
yes, that's a desperate laughter.
All right.
Hey, just a point. Let me also ask Honorable Muiru. Tell the president of NUP and all other leaders who want to unseat Museveni to stop threatening him with 1, court cases, 2, ICC, 3, arrests. No matter what has been done, let us mature and say, okay.
You should massage him.
How's maturity?
Mature out of impunity.
No.
He talked about
there is impunity.
All right,
But
let's allow
deal with the problem?
Let's allow Paul Muiru
When the problem cannot go.
Yes, all right, Paul Muiru.
No, Kenneth. I think the problem in the country requires political sociologists to study the situation.
Like Mali.
Because the problem we are having, that even those whom you actually think understand, because Honorable Mulongo participated in the Constituent Assembly, to my recollection.
Yes.
And the caution they promulgated, there's a preamble to which I'm very sure he must have contributed, which was reminding us of our history, which was characterized by a lot of political instability. And as a result of that, they went in the 1995 Constitution and created a whole chapter on rights.
Or the Bill of Rights.
Maybe for his information, when you look at Article 20, it talks about the fundamental human rights. These rights, they accrue to us by virtue of being born. They are not given to us by Mr. Museveni.
Yeah.
They are not given to us by Minister Barugahari.
By Mulongo.
When
he's at DC.
And the same constitution goes ahead to create an obligation on everybody, on Museveni, on Mulongo, on Barugahari, on Muiru and Male, on everybody, to ensure that there is enjoyment of those fundamental human rights. To the extent that they even extend to all organs of the state and agencies of the state. That's what you made. Maybe I'm just refreshing.
Sure.
I was just refreshing.
I'm so much alive to that. I'm just so alive to that.
Now, the politics surrounding this. You see, what I think the state did was to profile those ardent opposition people, arrest them, have them charged of trumped-up charges, so that you create fear that whoever will try next time, you will be like Pastor Mali, who stood incarcerated up to now. I was in Arua. Actually, for me, we are some of the liberal people who were in the hotel. They kept telling us that they're going to arrest you because they want to cheat Cassiano. So we kept on wondering how I'm in the hotel, how they can come in the hotel. I said, this is not possible.
All right.
So from nowhere, I saw the police and the army attacking a hotel, who were arrested. Then when I called the chairman, the commissioner, I called the Tashubia was, by then, because I had worked within Parliament, was a commissioner. Then he said, actually the chairman expressed shock. They can't arrest a candidate. They can't arrest you. So let me find out when I called, he didn't pick again. So I called it Tashubia, or not Tashubia. He didn't pick again.
Which one is that? You can't arrest a candidate?
Yeah, of course. Because I read a candidate, I had not committed any offense.
All right.
But no, yes,
Very quickly,
interfere. No.
We are running out of time.
What actually shocked me, when we were arrested, they first told us on the first day, that they just want to cheat Cassiano, the thing will end. Then we stayed at the station. Then the following day after Cassiano winning, they said that you're going to be charged of treason because you embarrassed the president. So the genocide was called the Wanyotes from our eastern there. So I came and told him that, you know what, this matter, the president is not happy. I said, but you see, you're talking about treason and not talking about happy. So what is the offense? Annoying the president? Or what is the... We are charged with the treason.
Yes.
We are
Taken
arraigned
to
in
military
court.
court.
We are given a bail. We are made to go to court for over 2 years. Then later they said, no, exactly, they just Sergeant Sandai up to now. So, but you see, the young people with whom we were charged, the 37 young people, going for 2 years, spending money from Kampala to Gulu, from Kampala to Gulu, it was meant to make us tired. You understand? But you see, for me, the more I was subjected to such, is the day actually I see that, no, I think I need to stand for my right. But in the conclusion, the young people you see reacting today, because of what you people are doing, they haven't changed the presumption. There is no longer presumption of innocence you created in the Constitution, Mr. Honorable Mulongo. The young people, there's a presumption of guilt. That's why when they suspect you in anything, they will descend on you using social media, using whatever is at their disposal. They will disparage. They will reduce you to your level because you have failed to make use of the systems which you have created. Actually, I'm among those few people. When the young people attack anybody, I don't just condemn them. I first go through the facts. Then I would ask, but how did Mr. Onamolong end up in this situation? Maybe it is even desirable. Because people have lost hope, the Constitution gives them the leverage, the Constitution you made under Article 2, Sub-Article 2, to use any force, Article 3,
the systems are abused.
To use any means to help on to those who have overthrown the Constitution.
All right.
But it is up to you, as we are telling you, that the country is on the cliff.
All right. We have comments coming in on this specific issue, and I'll begin with Tony Kent Chaze, who is listening in from Mawanda Road in Imulagwe. He says, releasing persons is a good gesture, but can we do the same for all prisoners? What we need to cross-examine, all prisoners do the needful as per their stay in prison. Everyone might come up...
which was made.
Everyone might come out to seek their persons in prison, yet they are still serving their stay in there. If political will is the reason to release prisoners, then even the shifting of Luzira to Wikwe might not be necessary. Are they in prison wrongly? That's the issue. What we need is to cross-examine all prisoners, do the needful. If the political prisoners are baits for populists and politicians, it's absurd. That's a comment there from Kent, who is listening in from Mawanda Road. Honorable Mulongo, shame upon you. How can you compare anything with refusal to leave power? If you have nothing to say, please be quiet. Spectrum Extra, listening to Mulongo on matter of succession, then I will have Malay anytime as a leader in this country because Mulongo has no argument. Noob supporters, if Mulongo has nothing to say, he should keep quiet. Otherwise, let him stop what he's saying. Then we have another comment. You cannot compare a church to a nation. A church, especially Pentecostal, can have ownership and the work is a calling compared to a nation which belongs to all citizens. Succession is the crave for the biggest percentage of the population, apart from a few individuals personally benefiting from the regime as they worship their leader. Let us avoid selfish tendencies and develop love for the country. That's a comment from David there. Now, gentlemen, lady, let's wrap up the discussion, and I'll begin with you, Pastor Mali.
Mulongo, Honorable, I send you again to the president. Tell him that Pastor Mali has a proposal.
Your proposal doesn't stand.
This man is sounding
this
like
country is not a business.
Biblical prophet.
This country
is the new Isaiah.
We need to see the first ever peaceful transfer of power. We are going to 2026. Still bullets will be fired. Some will be shot dead. Others will be wrongly arrested.
Even American bullets were fired.
Please.
At the capital.
Let's allow
are you
him
an
to
honorable?
He is an honorable ambassador.
I'm just giving you some information.
I'm fed up at my age seeing young people arrested.
All right.
And imprisoned.
All right.
They don't. When Chiza Besigye is arrested, he's escorted home. When Honorable Bobby Wine is arrested, he's escorted home. When young people, the nobodies, are arrested, some are killed, others are in prison. They'll never even come out unless people like Honorable Baram intervenes. Right. You need to take my message to the president.
Dr. Sarah Bireti.
Rwanda is commemorating the genocide. And they are reminding their people of the history. Please, Honorable Mulongo, let us remember our history because we can so easily slide back into turmoil and bloodbath.
Dr. Sarah Bireti, your closing shot.
That is me, Pastor Mali.
The president is one of the three godfathers of the 1995 Constitution, together with the late Honorable Apakaburo and Odochi as the other godfathers.
There's another godfather here in
He
studio.
has, yes, they
Simon
enacted,
Mlongo.
but the people who initiated, presided over the process are the ones we call the godfathers of the Constitution. He is the only president, actually, who has presided over executive power to implement this Constitution, the 1995 Constitution. Article 23 is very clear on the rights of Ugandans and the manner in which they should be arrested or how their freedom should be taken away. The NUP supporters were denied their constitutional rights by the regime, the security forces of President Museveni as the commander-in-chief. Releasing them would be him as a commander-in-chief of the security forces and the president of this country under executive authority, Article 99, would be him doing what he ought to have done.
All right.
It is not a favor to anybody.
All right. Honorable Simon Mlongo, your closing remarks as we come to the end of the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. The Constitution provides very clearly about the rights of people. And we read it state that nobody should be charged for an offense that is not described or provided for in the books of law. Arresting people without committed offenses is wrong.
Even on framed-up charges.
And we must make sure that the human rights definitely are upheld in this country. Where the government, the state has reasons to do so, then those reasons should be justified in the courts of law. And that's very important. As to the president having powers and mechanisms to have anybody released, yes, he does. And he can do so. And we hope that the request by the Honorable Minister for Youth and Children Affairs did request. We hope that they'll really follow it up and then the president releases these people as per the request of the minister. And so really about the rest that we have discussed, I'm happy about the comments from our
My
listeners.
message to the president.
I really appreciate them.
Right.
This was a discussion, and I was trying to provide my ideas, but also take note of what they have said.
Honorable Paul Mwilu, in 1 minute, please.
First, by Honorable Barugahare, the minister, or any person, ensuring that there's enjoyment of people's rights is their constitutional duty under Article 22, because the Constitution creates a duty on anybody to ensure that the enjoyment of a right. And lastly, on the president's interference with the judicial process, as assuming it is there, as Mlongo has said, I think the prerogative of mercy is what it actually provides. But of course, we know here in Africa or in Uganda.
With that, we come to the end of the show. Thank you very much, dear listeners, for being with us. And thank you very much for staying tuned to Radio 1 FM.
You can use order from
Up next, we continue with the great songs and great memories as we wish you a fabulous weekend.
Spectrum Extra on Radio 1 FM 90. An extra hour of analysis and discussion of the topical issues of the week.